This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with Kelly Hanlon McCormick, and today is episode number 227, Window of Tolerance. Welcome to Transforming Anxiety. I'm your host, Kelly McCormick. I'm a mom to 2 boys, a wife, friend, daughter, and sister, and I'm a certified life coach, yoga teacher, and soon-to-be mindfulness meditation teacher. I'm no stranger to anxiety, and I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you too can transform anxiety into calm, peace, and whatever you want for your life. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there, welcome in today. How are ya? End of July. I feel like school and fall are right around the corner, and I have to admit, I'm here for it. I know a lot of you love summer. Those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, we're kind of smack dab in the middle of it, I guess, still. I know some of you are not even remotely ready for summer to end, and I get it. I hear you. I'm always ready for summer when it comes, for sure. One of the best things about living in Kansas City is that we definitely have all 4 seasons. And I'm always ready for the next one. That's probably kind of ingrained in me, right? Because I've lived in the Midwest my whole life. And so it just seems very natural that we cycle through and more is coming. But man, I love the shifting of the seasons. Like more than any particular season, I think I love the shifting and the changing of the seasons. Which is to say, I'm ready for you, fall. I'm not wishing summer away. I'm really trying not to. And I'm definitely soaking up these last few weeks of having my boys home and all the time that I get with them during the summer months while they're still home. I've got high school and middle school coming up this fall. But I'm also ready. I'm like present, but ready. Yeah? All right. Time for our weekly intention setting. So we're talking this week about the window of tolerance. And like I've shared with you the last couple of episodes, this new thing I'm starting, I want to set an intention for each episode. And for this conversation, I want to give you some solid ground, a solid image for why we sometimes do the things we do and say the things we say, particularly when we are under or overreacting. And also just to share with you the idea that we can cultivate and we can nourish the space that we want to inhabit, our window of tolerance. This is fluid, it's dynamic, it's something that you can work to grow and expand. And this whole thing is a concept that you can really practice with. So by having this conversation, we're bringing awareness to this concept, and we're going to talk about ways to grow into it, to use this mental image and to practice becoming more and more mentally and emotionally healthy. Sound good? All right, this is also one of those episodes, one of those that I'll probably constantly be sending to new students for a long time to come. This is just going to be a good reference episode. It's going to be one that's pretty foundational and important in the overall scheme of the work that we do around here. So, the window of tolerance. Have you heard this phrase before? This is something that Dr. Dan Siegel developed. It's a concept to describe the ideal zone of arousal or energy. Because not that kind of arousal, but more like the energy you're bringing to your life. Or you could call it a vibe if you like that kind of thing. All right, so let's start by getting a visual image of the window of tolerance. So picture a blank sheet of paper, and you're going to draw a line across from left to right, and then you'll draw another line a few inches below that, again from left to right across the paper. Okay, so you have 2 parallel lines on your paper. So there's the space above the top line, there's the space between the 2 lines, and the space below the bottom line. The space between the 2 lines is what we're going to call the window of tolerance. The space above, it's what's called hyperarousal, and the space below is called hypoarousal. Okay? You can draw this out if it's helpful. You can also Google the window of tolerance and click on images, you'll find tons of those online. All right, so let's talk about the spaces above and below the lines first. Okay, hyper and hypo arousal. This is when we get into different states with our nervous system. We get overactivated or underactivated. You can also think of these places as different emotional or energetic states. So, for instance, when you're hyper aroused, you're above the line. This looks like anxiety, anger, overwhelm, a sense that you're out of control and things are happening really quickly. There's a real sense of chaos and busyness to hyperarousal. It has a lot of energy to it. So alternatively, hypoarousal, which is when you're below the bottom line, this looks like sadness, depression, detachment, numbness, almost like a sense that you're frozen. So things really slow down. It's like you're moving through molasses. There's very little energy to it. And of course, there's a Goldilocks thing going on here. When you're inside of your window of tolerance, things are pretty solid. Now, they don't have to be good. It doesn't mean you're happy. It doesn't mean things are going your way necessarily. It just means you are in flow. You're handling things. You're moving with life. You're not wildly overregulated, and you don't feel completely underregulated either. You're steady. Now, it's not that you don't feel stress or pressure or sadness or anxiety if you're inside your window of tolerance. It's just that it doesn't bother you too much. You can handle it. So, we've all had those experiences when something kind of small happens, right? You drop something, you trip, you lose your keys, your kid pushes your buttons, and you explode. You react, and what you say or do in that moment is disproportionate to the trigger. You know what I mean, right? We've all been there. So that's hyper arousal. You're outside of your window of tolerance and you're anxious, you're stressed, you're reacting, maybe overreacting with a lot of energy. So similarly, but the opposite, we've all had those moments where something happens, maybe someone says something, maybe you're not sure how to proceed with a work project. Maybe you keep butting heads with your mom or your partner and you just shut down. You go offline. It's like you're there physically. Your body is there, but your mind and your heart and your soul are just gone. You're numb. You feel frozen. Maybe you're completely disassociating or depersonalizing even. So that's hypoarousal. That's when you're outside your window of tolerance, but you're below the line. So you see the two ways of being outside your window of tolerance, yeah? You see how you go straight into fight or flight mode, or you go into freeze mode. Hyperarousal, hypoarousal, anxiety, or play dead. Now, I don't want to spend too much more time talking about the space above and below the line. I think that paints a decent enough description. And honestly, we know those places well, don't we? We touch into those places and we know what it feels like. You may notice that you go above the line more often than below. Or maybe it's vice versa for you. Like I tend to live within my window of tolerance and above the line. I very rarely go below the line, which is just noteworthy, right? It's helpful to know your own habits, your own patterns, what you tend towards. So think about it for yourself. What is your go-to? What sends you above the line? What sends you below the line? It's like just a little reflection point there. Now, most importantly, let's talk about the space between the lines. This is your window of tolerance. And I'm very specifically using the word your here, not the. It's your window of tolerance, not the window of tolerance. This is specific to each one of us. And it'll change. It can seem to change even by the day. But I like to think of this a bit more globally with a bigger arc than just day by day. This is about how you're handling things in general. how resilient you are overall. So sure, yes, it can change. And I know it can seem like it's changing by the week, the day, the hour even. But think of this bigger, more like seasons of your life. I just think that's a more useful way to think about this and approach it. We get too into the weeds if we don't, too like navel gazy if we think of it in a really granular way. So you may have noticed for yourself, maybe you also notice this in the people in your life, that at times there can be a very narrow window of tolerance. Like you're only handling things when they're going smoothly, when things are easy, when it's obvious and simple what you want and need to do. I like to call this a success-based plan, right? It's like you can flow with life as long as life is flowing with you. And let's just be honest, you're kind of getting your way, right? Like that's when it's easy. But think about how you widen that a little bit, how you get a little more patient or a little more tolerant when you say, like when you become a parent. Now you have to deal with some new stuff, right? A newborn is waking you up multiple times each night. You're getting strollers and diaper bags in and out of cars and nap times and early bedtimes. It's like you're forced to tolerate a bit more in your everyday life. Or let's say you get a job. Now you need to deal with coworkers and probably some nonsensical trainings and some amount, let's be honest, of boredom or tedium just to get through the day. So there's ways of simply moving about the world and just sheer experience, honestly, that expands your window of tolerance. Relationships, pets, owning a car or a house, interacting with family, cooking, some amount of financial health and responsibility. All of this demands that you become more tolerant of daily life. Basically, that you start making peace with some amount of doing things you don't want to do, right? By and large, most adults that you come across have developed a wider window of tolerance simply because daily life has shown them and asked them to become more resilient, more patient, and less impulsive. Right? Look at toddlers, look at adults. This is a gross overgeneralization, but also kind of true. All right, so that's kind of a logistical and practical approach. That's one way. It's a true and a real way, but it's just one way that many of us widen our windows of tolerance. We come to respect and accept what life demands of us to some extent, right? But I know you've noticed that only takes us so far. You start adulting, right? You make some amount of peace with doing the things that you don't want to do, but that you need to do in order to get through life, right? You're paying taxes, you're filling the car with gas, you're vacuuming, But then you likely hit a wall of some kind, a place where you're dealing with the consequences of being yourself, and you notice that you aren't more tolerant, that you aren't more resilient. When you find that you don't have much more to draw from or pull from in order to be stronger or more patient or more kind or more compassionate in any given moment or situation. Basically, growing up and getting some life experience under your belt only takes you so far. From there, it's up to us. And now that I've said all that, this is where I actually want to hone in on and focus today. How do we widen our window of tolerance and become more resilient, more able to flow with life from the inside out? So we've taken what we can from the external world, right? There's a certain amount of it that's just kind of beaten into us by moving through life and living in a civilized or whatever, not very civilized society. And then we get to do our work. We get to heed the invitation and choose to become intentionally and actively more tolerant of life being so lifey. Now, okay, the fun part is this is episode number 227 of the podcast. So there are a few hundred episodes already out in the ether that describe and suggest and lay out practices and ways of widening your window of tolerance. Because honestly, that's the work we do around here. Everything I talk about, everything I teach is so that we can become more thoughtful, more mindful, more aware, kinder, more compassionate, stronger, more resilient. All of that is in service of widening your window of tolerance. It all makes it so that you can handle life. You can breathe. You can flow. You can stop arguing with reality. You're steady. You're stable. You're content. Even when things aren't going your way. Even when it gets confusing and painful and yucky. Even when things are surprising or infuriating, right? 200 episodes of that. But it's annoying for me to just say that. So let's talk more specifically about a handful of things you could focus on and practice and stay close to for the sake of this episode, right? Things like taking 5 or 10 long, deep breaths, writing out or talking through your thoughts and feelings, getting into your body by moving or exercising or walking, using your senses to get grounded and out of your mind, connecting with a friend or family member or another trusted ally, listening to great music, lighting a candle, sipping on tea, engaging with nature, meditating, practicing with tools like RAIN or Byron Katie's The Work or nonviolent communication. There are lots of ways to do this, but they have to be healthy, nourishing, and bring you closer to who you want to be and how you want to feel. They have to check all of those boxes. Healthy, nourishing, and bring you closer to who you want to be and how you want to feel. So things like shopping, dessert, alcohol, people pleasing, these are examples of things that are not it. Now, these practices are things you could do in the moment, for sure. But more powerfully, I like to think about these much more broadly. These are things to do as a lifestyle. These are ways to live on a regular basis so that you're in the process of constantly and consistently widening your window of tolerance. So that when things get intense or tricky or challenging, you have a deep well and feel fully resourced, and you can draw from that. You don't have to get creative in the moment. You've been training for it all along. Does that make sense? All right, we're going to do more episodes. We're going to have more conversations about the window of tolerance for sure. But for today, I wanted to introduce the concept and help you to think about where you go outside of your window, like what yanks you above or below the lines. Where do you veer outside of what you can readily handle and easily manage on a regular basis? Can you think of times, seasons, phases of your life where you felt pretty grounded, when you had a decently wide window of tolerance? Can you find other times or places where that window got pretty narrow and you found yourself feeling overly reactive and or shutting down pretty regularly? What was going on? How were you handling it? What was the larger and greater context of your life in those moments? These are powerful questions to ask, and these are important things to consider. So like I said earlier, the idea here is to live in a way that further widens your window of tolerance constantly and consistently. That your way of showing up for yourself and moving about the world serves you, supports you, and builds resilience and strength. Life is hard. Life is tough, right? And the more we can manage, the more we can handle in real time, the better we feel on a regular basis. Yeah? All right, so let's leave it there for today. We'll do another one or few on the window of tolerance. We could talk way more about this, and we will. But let's just start here, right? Make this yours. How does this show up in your life, right? All right, I will be back next week for more Transforming Anxiety. Please don't forget to rate and review the show. I would so appreciate your thoughts and your feedback. And of course, it'll help our other anxious friends to join us and get some support and love too. So I will see you again, same time, same place next week. And until then, please take care. Do you have someone to help you with your stress, anxiety, worry, and overwhelm? If not, I would love to be your coach. The Fierce Calm Project is my virtual coaching program where we get to go in on topics like this one, and I can help you apply these lessons to your life so that you're creating your own transformation. We do live coaching calls, guided meditations, on-demand yoga classes. We hold book club where we read books your neighborhood book club won't, and there's lots of bonus content that I've created just for you. When you're ready to take what you're learning on the podcast to a whole other level, then come on over and check out the Fierce Calm Project at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/Fierce Calm Project.